According to the U.S. Fire Administration, there were an estimate of 1.3 million fires in 2009, and around 3,010 individuals lost their lives because of the fire. Thousands of injured and millions of dollar property damage. These are horrifying statistics, but it wouldn't be worse if it wasn't for a device invented nearly 200 years ago, the fire extinguisher. Fire extinguishers are a necessity in any home, office, or place. It can save your property or even your life. Today, I'll explain what causes fire, how fire extinguishers work, and the types of fire extinguishers. What causes fire? According to the article How Extinguishers Work, there are three elements that cause fire. Extreme heat that causes, for example, smoke from your house. Oxygen, it could be the air or any gas. Fuels, it can be something that can burn, for example, wood, papers, or cardboard. To stop fires to breaking out, we need to extinguish at least one of these three elements. Fire extinguishers are designed for this. How fire extinguishers work? According to Tom Harris from article How Fire Extinguishers Work, fire extinguishers are sturdy metal cylinders filled with water or some smoother material. When you depress a lever at the top of the fire cylinder, the material is expelled by high pressure, similar to the material contained in the aerosol can. Here's an example of how to use when you use the fire extinguisher. Pull the pin, hold it upright, aim at the fire and stand by 6 feet, and then press trigger and swing side to side. There are many types of fire extinguishers, and each were a different purpose. According to the Fire Science College, there are 4 types of fire extinguishers: water, foam, powder, and carbon dioxide. Water extinguishers is the most common use, but it can be dangerous if it's used in the wrong way. You cannot use in electrical fire, fluid liquid, or any contains electricity. You just can use with burning paper, wood, or cardboard. Foam extinguishers. It's based on water and foaming. The foam flow on top of the burning liquid and breaks the interaction between the flame and the fuel surface. It can be used only in fires involving gas, fat, oil, but it cannot be used in domestic palm fire. Dry powder extinguishers. According to Isai Davis from eHouse, powder extinguishers contain a pressurized gas such as nitrogen and powders such as baking soda and potassium carbonate. It can be used, for example, electrical fires, those caused by flammable liquid. Carbon dioxide is a non-flammable gas. It has a very high pressure inside the aerosol can, making it into a liquid substance. The carbon dioxide sucks up the oxygen, and the fire gets rid of the heat because of the cold. This extinguisher is best used in electrical fires and flammable materials, but it cannot be used in metal fires. As a conclusion, it's better to know what causes fire in order to use the right extinguisher. Here's a picture of the 4 kinds of fire extinguishers. There's water that you can use solid material, foam, just solid material, flammable liquid, dry powder, most used for everybody, and carbon dioxide, flammable liquid, electric cement, and cooking oil sometimes. If there is a huge fire, just don't use a fire extinguisher because the power is less and just better than the firefighter.
Kimberly, are you here? What did you think?
She had a good introduction. The topic was interesting.
She had good details and they were interesting. She did a good job explaining her examples and citing where she got her information. And the visual aid was helpful for the audience to understand what she was talking about.
All right. I think I think you're rushing a little bit, and you need to slow down in the presentation, because your pronunciation is just a little bit different than I think most people are used to listening to, and it took me like 20 or 30 seconds longer to figure out what it was that you were talking about than it should have. Once we got there, I thought it was pretty clear, and you had a nice statistic talking about why it's important, so we've got a good justification for listening to the speech. But the same sort of thing happens when you get to the preview. It goes through, it's sort of mechanical, and you're rushing through it, and it's not giving us a chance to ease into the topic and see where we're headed here, and I think you want to give us a little more opportunity on that. I like the idea on the first point talking about what the elements of fire are and how fire extinguishers are designed to address one of those elements. I think you needed a little bit more integration of that when you start finally talking about the different types of fire extinguishers. Which elements of fire is it that they are addressing? And I didn't see that connection as being well developed as it sounded like it was going to be. You did a good job citing some of the material in the speech. I thought the visuals were okay, except that the last one that you had, I kept thinking, well, why don't we have something like that while you're describing each of the fire extinguishers? And I'm going, because you're going through all this stuff about which extinguisher is good for which type of fire, and I said, nobody's going to remember that's hard to recall. And I said, you need, and I'm writing down the note, you need a slide that talks about that, and then right at the end, we get the slide that does all those things. So it just needs to be integrated into the speech so it fits in with the things that you're talking about when you're talking about them. I think you also need to make it a little bit more interesting. It sounds sort of like maybe a sales pitch for fire extinguishers, or an instruction guide for using the fire extinguisher instead of a speech about this. So a story about people making use of the wrong kind of fire extinguisher and a problem that happened as a consequence, or maybe something about the first time somebody figured out that you could use these kinds of ingredients in a fire extinguisher. Something to make it a little bit more interesting for the audience so it doesn't seem quite as mechanical in the process. All right, thank you much.